Welcome to the Questionistas. I'm Thomas.
And I'm Spencer.
Quick disclaimer, this is for education and entertainment purposes. If you need help, please see a professional. We are not experts, nor do we give medical advice. Take our words with a gallon of salt.
Hey, Thomas, what's the question today?
What do you do when you don't know what to do?
Interesting. So we kind of touched on this in one of our earlier episodes in talking about making a decision, but it sounds
Almost
like
like we've got a theme of indecision and struggling with. I'm just kind of laughing at ourselves in a good way because we've got these issues that we're focusing on and the tools that we use to help us deal with them.
yeah, but this sounds like this is bigger than just a how to make a decision when I'm walking down and I don't know which laundry soap to get. Or is it? Or is it
It
as
might
simple
be.
as that?
For some people, it might be.
Why is this so hard when you don't know what to do?
Yeah. Well, I think to talk about why that's so hard, first, I want to touch on the contexts that you can feel like this. A few of the situations or times that you're like, I don't know what to do. For me, I could be overwhelmed. There could be a lot of choices. I don't know what I'm supposed to or I should do next, or I have too many things that I think are important. I've got like 5 things. Gosh, this happens at like work all the time. It's like, all right, so what priority level is this? And they're like, yes. Yeah, I know. We need a priority order. Yeah, the answer is yes. They're all a priority.
Yeah.
Sorry, bro. You gotta pick one. No, no, they're all important. How many things can you do at a time?
Well,
At least consciously.
there's actually a study that the University of Utah did about multitasking, and they found that only 2% of the population are what they called super taskers. Everyone else is very much incapable of multitasking. That alone is okay and interesting, but what's even funnier is for years he has gotten so many people that have come back and said, I'm one of those super taskers. And he's just shocked at how they just come out of the woodwork that they're all convinced that they're the super tasker, which is just not true. And he's just like, oh yeah, I'm sure you're a super tasker. But every time he tested someone on super tasking, they're not.
What they're really doing is they're rapid task switching, which has
Right.
a whole cost to it.
Yeah. And he talks about that you're spending at least 50% of your cognitive power just switching between the two things. So good luck getting more than 20% of your whole self focusing on one item at a time. You can do more than one thing at a time. And so you have what people think are multitaskers or super taskers, but that's not even talking about making two choices at once. That's just doing two things at once. That's assuming I have two tasks laid out before me, like
Yeah,
driving and reading a book, and I'm a super tasker capable of doing such a thing. Don't make that decision.
you're not even talking about you're not just talking about doing 2 things at the same time because 'cause we're kind of talking about like, that's a situation where you have several things that you wanna do.
Right.
But if you have to be making decisions about what to do, or if what you're doing is making more decisions, which, like, as a designer, I'm doing every day, then that's even harder to do at the same time or rapid switching.
Yeah. I want to talk about the danger of should, because there's a decision based theory system where there's three reasons why you make a decision or why you choose to act. It bases on three different ideas. One is your perception of your capacity to complete that task will determine whether you do it.
Self-efficacy is what I've heard it's called when it comes
I
to growth mindset stuff. They call it self-efficacy, your confidence in your ability to do the thing.
okay, I'll take it because it sounds right. The second one though is social pressures, and there's social pressures within yourself, within your community, and then within leadership. If there's leadership in your community, that all of those can identify a shouldness that give you that pressure towards I'm going to do this because I'm expected to do this, and that should is ultimately what you're getting is you should be doing this because that's what everyone else is doing, right? The third one, just for funsies, is past history. So past history of doing something similar to this will influence that. But
Mm.
that middle one I think is really fascinating, and it breaks down to like 17 different factors with social pressures, but you feeling pressured to complete this or make the decision a certain way is really challenging, especially in our modern capitalistic marketing environment where everything on the world is telling you that you should buy this new stupid device that'll trim your toenails.
And if I do, I'll finally be happy, right?
Correct.
That's what the commercials say.
Yep.
Yeah, so there's a lot of these external pressures pushing you to make certain choices. It's one reason that always, if I have to watch ads, I always mute.
If you're lucky.
I'm not going to listen to you telling me what to do or telling me that I should buy a whole new kitchen furniture set when I am not economically, financially capable of that. There are also a lot of internal factors that makes it hard to know what to do next. Some of the times it can be because those conflict with what the external factors are telling you, like your social group or your job or whatever saying you should do X. You shouldn't take a nap at 3 o'clock in the afternoon because your brain is frickin' exhausted. You should do more work.
Yeah.
You
Which is
need
a
to do
really
things.
which is really funny how socially applicable that is because there are parts of the world where they have siesta as their culture,
Right.
and everything shuts down for a couple hours. It's like, dude, go take a nap, and if you don't, then you should be asleep right now.
And I think that there's actually one assumption in this question, at least in one way of wording it. What do you do when you don't know what you're supposed to do or what you should do? Are you supposed to do anything? And if you want certain results, like if you want to live, then you need to eat. If you want to have a house, then you're going to need to work. But are you
So
supposed to be doing something? Is a valid choice doing nothing? Like, kind of goes back to our episode about thinking by yourself. Is there a time to just do nothing?
and I think that's extremely valid in considering what you should be doing. And I'm thinking of the Avatar, the cartoon with the Airbender, and there's like a positive power and a negative power, and then there's a non-power. And then he's talking to his mentor that's teaching him about this non-power. He's like, sometimes inaction is action of itself. And but then he's like, actually, there's like 64 different other types of actions you could take. And it's almost as a joke, but at the same time, just opening your mind to a third option is sometimes really hard to do, where inaction is the right thing. The other one that I'm thinking of is trusting your gut is a classic phrase. So this week for work, I had a certification. We spent a whole week training, learning the new material. And then on Friday, I had to take a multiple choice test. And inevitably, we started talking about tactics on how to take a multiple choice test. And someone's like, well, there's that myth of trusting your gut and you'll get the right answer. But if you change your answer, then you're statistically more likely to get it wrong. And someone's like, no, that is a myth. That is false. That has statistically been proven for 80 years. And I looked this up for our episode today. And sure enough, it's been over 80 years that people have been constantly reassessing this of, is that a myth? And ultimately it totally is. And it really falls
Sorry, it's a
upon,
myth that you should
oh,
or should not follow your first gut instinct.
that you should do nothing. Don't answer the question. No, I'm kidding. No, it's following your gut and not changing the question. You're more likely to get it wrong. So if you have doubt and concern and you decide to change it later, you're statistically more likely to get it right. And the one study had like 8,000 graduate level exams that students that they assessed this on. They found that more people were getting the questions right at like 70% more likely to get it right, which is pretty interesting. One study around this, they said maybe it's not whether you're going to get it wrong or not, it's your fear, your sentiment of regret around getting it wrong. So they did a meta study where they basically are getting to, is it that you're going to regret this decision more if you change the question, or are you going to regret it less if you don't change this question? And they found it at a rate of
Oh,
74%.
so it's not even necessarily about regretting what answer. It's are you more
Regretting if you
likely to
change
regret
it.
it if you change, or are you more likely to regret it if you keep?
Yeah, so stick with your first answer because your tolerance and your capacity for regret is what is really holding you back at this point. It's not about the choice. It's not analysis paralysis, maybe less about I don't know which one to choose. It's I'm afraid of the regret that may come with it if I keep second guessing myself. Is kind of what they were getting at. It's really, really fascinating idea. And
Yeah.
what was interesting is after a week of studying, I took the test and we did pre-tests and I bombed every pre-test. I was at the scores that I was getting, I was not going to pass this certification. And oh my gosh. So I am cramming for 2 days at the end, thinking there's no way I'm going to pass this. But I spent so much time cramming that one other study suggested if you feel confident, move on, stop worrying about it. If you don't feel confident, then flag it, come back to it, and revisit it and try again. And it's just your
What
level
if
of confidence with the decision
what
more
if you
than it
never
is.
feel confident?
Then, son, I think part of that is, and you put a note in here of trusting a well trained intuition subconscious is better than manually analyzing everything. I I think
There's a key there.
what is it?
The key is a well-trained intuition. So a lot of people talk about trusting your gut, trusting your intuition, almost always as if it's a positive. It can be in certain situations. For example, we've got a whole batch of biases that are set to help us make decisions and act. Do they set us up to always be completely accurate? No. It has to do with what's called satisficing. It's where you pick an answer that is good enough often enough. And those biases help us to act and move. Otherwise, we would just be paralyzed. And sometimes, if those biases aren't quite doing their job and other biases are kicking in, like the fear of doing something wrong, that's one reason that we get frozen. Is that basically these biases that say you don't need to be perfect, you need to get moving, aren't doing their job. But here's the other thing about your gut and your intuition, especially when it comes to getting like the right answer or a better answer, is it has to be well trained because if not, all you're getting is those default built in biases. For example, a firefighter who's been working for 30 years might be in a room, something's on fire, they turn to the other firefighters and they're immediately like, get out now. And they run out of the room and something collapses. They're like, how did you know to get out? They're like, I just I just knew. What that meant was because the other firefighter they were with, who had 2 years of experience, did not have that instinct, did not have that reaction. Their well-trained subconscious was looking around, it saw or detected something like the roof was gonna collapse, and it said, "Get out." That is a lot of people just say, "Oh, yeah, I just had this gut feeling about it." When people say their gut feeling, if it's not trained with a good feedback loop, my brain goes to the list of biases. I guess what I'm trying to say is if you train your intuition well in ways that make you more effective, then that's better than somebody who's just saying, "Oh yeah, I just trust my gut." And it's like, yeah, your gut can be full of bull.
Yeah, one of the coworkers, he got a perfect score, and like no one else has gotten a perfect score out of the 60, 70 people that have taken the certification at work. And I said, what are you doing? Instead of saying you trust your gut, he said, well, you use all the techniques and all the tactics for taking a multiple choice question test, and you do this and you do this and you do this. And he named like six different things. He's
He
like,
gamif he's one of those people who's learned how to gamify multiple choice tests, meaning
well,
they know the rules and the conventions and the
yeah.
cliches.
Yeah, and as much as I thought I knew, it's like, well, I did college. I did a lot of multiple choice
I
question
did
tests.
college.
I did college. I'd done good. I is smart. He was paying attention to the multiple choice question test way differently than I was, because he knew all these different techniques and tactics that they use in writing them. And he said something like, "Never pick the one that's the longest answer unless it absolutely is." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" Every rule had an exception, but at the same time, all of them put together, you can easily wheedle out what the right one is. And if you can't figure it out, you're not sure, then start process of elimination and then figure out which one is longer and don't pick that
Probably why
one.
I did such a bad job on the damn driver's ed test in high school. I had to retake that thing 3 times, no matter how much I studied it. Oh,
No, that was because you were dumb and you shouldn't be driving. That like I'm talking about well trained in the same way that your firefighter is well trained based on experience and based on learning how to learn from your experience is what ultimately I think this individual had figured out, and he gets a perfect score and we didn't. But I mean, brush off of my shoulder. I only got 3 wrong, so I was doing okay after talking with him. Was that gut instinct? No. I didn't attribute it to gut instinct, but at the same time, I was as best as I could training my gut as fast as possible to answer those questions correctly. And ultimately, I chose an answer and I committed to it. And I was like, I don't see any other way of looking at this. And I just moved on. And getting all but 3 wrong with that mentality, either my gut was really in tune, whatever that means, which I think means nothing, or I actually studied really as hard as I could and I trained my gut as best as possible to pick the first decision and move on.
yeah.
Which I think really is just a confidence level. I had a confidence level of 50, 60, 70% on the thing. I'm not gonna sit here and debate this. There were some that I had a really low confidence level. Probably should have revisited, but even then I didn't, and I got a decent score. And so it's a really interesting idea. I think my favorite part about that is the notion of regret, because the regret fear is really high for this one. Because if I didn't pass this for work, do I lose my job? I
Right?
don't think that was
There's
I don't
gonna be
think that
some
was going to
kind
be
of
the case.
consequence, but
But there's going to be a consequence, and if nothing else, a social consequence of I'm going to look bad and I'm not going to be as cool as everyone else because I didn't pass it on the first time and I had to take it a second time. Okay, I think we beat that one to death. Where are you going with this? Where do you want to take us?
okay. One thing I want to emphasize is that we've talked about the elephant and the lawyer in the past. We've been talking about training your elephant right now. But there are times when you just don't know what you should do. Say you don't have that well trained gut. You don't have, I don't know, the luxury of waiting or something like that.
Yeah.
There's a tool that I want to talk about that I actually first learned it from like some 12-step group literature or somebody I knew in one of those groups or something like that. And it's the phrase, what's the next right thing to do?
Oh, I thought it was going to be Chat GPT.
No. And yes, audience,
But cha.
that was a fake bleep. There are a lot of situations that this particular tool can be useful. When you have too much to do and you don't know which one to pick. When you have multiple things that feel like the same level of importance. And this is one of my favorite ones. This is where it's relevant for the 12-step groups because people working through behavior and addiction, they'll have slip ups, they'll have relapses. This question is insanely relevant right after you just had like a relapse.
Mm.
So let's say, for example, you're trying to be a good father and provide for your family and stuff like that. And you just spent 6 hours today watching Has Been Hotel on Amazon Prime. Just kidding. That didn't happen to me, but it totally could have a few years ago. And you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm the worst. I just wasted a whole ton of time. What should I be doing? Well, I should have been doing something totally different. There's going to be the temptation to just give up.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact of the matter is, whether you just screwed up or you just did great, In the present moment, you can work with what you have, and that's it. You don't have anything else available. The only place you have to start is from where you are. Whether that's
So
a good place or a bad place or an okay place, you just have right here and whatever you have next. And to be honest, that's the only choice you have.
yes, I'm thinking of when you get in an accident, your vision and your mental state is tunnel vision. So in the moment, you have a hyper awareness of everything around you, either right before, right after, or during, say, an accident in a car. And you are not thinking about what you're going to have for dinner that night. You're not thinking about whether you should go back to college or something in 6 months. You're just worried about, am I okay? Is everything okay? And you're hyper aware of everything around you, and your whole cognitive load is just spent on what is happening. So starting where you're at, whether you're in a moment of high distress or high dysregulation or not, starting with what's the next right thing to do allows you to just focus on just taking one more step forward. And so helping someone that's in a high distress situation, or helping yourself in a distress situation, you're not worried about what's happening in 6 months, but it's just like, hey, we just need you to take one more step to keep moving. I can tell you that this is really challenging to be personal with my children and my teenagers, because they get really overwhelmed with everything that could be done. And and then they say, well, if I make that choice, then the other things aren't going to get done, and then nothing's going to get done. Well, hold on. Don't worry about those other things. Let's just worry about your next homework assignment, for example. And that's really challenging for them to not think too far ahead, which I wonder if sometimes thinking too far ahead is what gets us into a difficult situation. And so what I'm hearing is we just need to focus on the next step. Now, what if you have three right things to do, Thomas? How do I handle that?
Well, there's a few considerations or adjustments you need to make about the universe for this question to really work for you. We already
Okay.
talked about a couple of them. You can only start from where you are. You can't start from somewhere else. It's so funny. Like the phrase "it is what it is."
Okay.
It's one of those phrases that feel, at least to me, that phrase always felt empty and stupid. I'm like, of course it is what it is. What it isn't, what it isn't. And what they actually mean is, it is what it is. It isn't what you want it to be. What you want is not defining reality. Reality just is, and you just get to react to it. So the only starting from where you are, it's like, well, duh. You can only act with the certainty that you have, because you can't act with more certainty than you have. It's like we have these expectations that in order for me to get started, I need to know more. And the problem with that is you don't even have like a minimum amount of what you need to know. You just say, I need more. So it doesn't matter how much you know. You're like, I just need to know more. Your knowledge could be at level 6,000. And you'd say, yeah, I need more, because it's just an attitude problem. The other aspects to this that are so critical is you have to accept the reality that you can't do everything. You are going to have to make choices, and there are going to be things that you don't pick to do. Like, I've had to come to terms with a lot of the side skills that I've wished that I could spend more time learning, like playing piano. I've thought for a long time it'd be really cool to learn how to play piano, but I have higher priorities. So I have to accept that there are things that I can't do. And on top of that, you have to accept that if you don't do those things, that's okay. I was having a conversation with my son the other day about, it was like math homework or something. And he was sick, and he was worried about not going to school because he was scared that the teacher, like,
Was
he's
I
like,
going to yell at him?
oh, yeah, he's like, well, if I don't do this, then this is If I don't do this math on this day, then it's going to be affecting this like that, and he will be upset with me or my grade will suffer. And I basically said, okay, do you know what you need to do today? No, I don't. Okay. Is there a way we could find that out? No, not till I get to school and I can talk to him. Okay. And he's like, what if I get to school and he says, oh, you have to do this or you didn't do this, so you're going to get a bad grade? First thing I tell him is if my son is that if you did what you could, then that's okay. Also, if your teacher is being unfair and giving you a bad grade for being sick and you didn't complete an assignment, I'm going to go yell at your teacher. And even that might not work.
I think that one's really fascinating, and we both of us have teenage kids. And my she was in 7th grade, and as early as that age, she was like, if I do this wrong, then my teacher's going to yell at me, then I'm going to get a bad grade, then I'm not going to get into college, and I won't be able to do it. And I'm like, whoa, slow that truck down. That is crazy.
I'm going to die alone.
And I'm going to die alone and hermit and stuck in the mountains. I'm like, oh, that sounds wonderful.
In a ditch.
But I was just like, wait a minute, hold on. One, Disney Channel, I think, is ruining you. And I think the total side rant, the amount of times that a TV show that kids watch where they're like, this is my only chance. I'm never going to be able to get on that team if I lose on this one time. I was like, that's not how any of this works. That's never how this has worked. And you don't know that. And that's so garbage. There's always tryouts next
Gosh,
year.
and even if you can't, and even if you're right, you can live and find happiness without that thing.
Yeah. Well, I haven't even gotten that far yet.
Go ahead.
But that notion that I think, and that's a question that I've never really asked them. I've tried in different ways, but what can you do right now? It's a super helpful thing or what do you know you need to do right now? Is because we asked it, what's the next right thing to do? There either is multiple things or there's nothing you can do at this moment. And I think sometimes that's okay that's the answer, and figuring out, okay, well then just do one of them. I don't care, and don't worry about the other ones yet.
I'm rewriting this question right now because I'm just like, what's the next right thing to do? I'm like, oh, we got the word right in there. There's an assumption. And then I was like, okay, maybe we should reword that to what should I do right now? And I'm like, oh, there it is again. There's that right, wrong, good, bad, better, best valuation that, gosh, I know for me is just paralyzing.
Yeah. Instead,
So
what is available?
Like, what can I do right now?
Yeah. What is available for you to do right now?
Yes. What is available for me to do right now?
Oh, I was going to tell you, completely related to the teachers. I'm like, I can't wait for one of your teachers to belittle you and yell at you and get mad at you for this, because guess what I get to do? I get to belittle and yell at your teacher, because that ain't going to happen, and I'm not going to let that fly. And I said, you call me when that teacher does that. I'm like, okay. And then surprisingly, the teacher never does that. And it's crazy the fears they have. It is kind of disappointing, but their teachers are really good and they're caring people. But for some reason, our kids are afraid of this. Is it that fear of regret of doing it wrong or not doing it at all, getting in trouble from the teacher?
Yeah.
I don't know.
One other important thing to this is that the list of potential things to do is infinite.
Okay. Now I'm screwed.
At least within your 70 to 90 to 199, hopefully if they get improvements in medicine, years. The list of potential things you can do is infinite. The list of things you have time to do is finite.
Okay.
So no matter what, you're not going to complete the to-do list. Unless you make a list, and I'm not even counting like making a list of like, I'm going to get at least these 3 things done today. That's not what I'm talking about. The things that you could do in your life, for your family, for your job, for your dreams, that potential to-do list can go on forever. So you have to accept that you're not going to complete it. You're not going to complete the potential list of things to do. And if you have those realities in mind, you can't do everything. The potential to-do list is infinite. You can only do one thing at a time. You have to start somewhere, and you can only start from where you are. Then asking yourself, what can I do right now? That's when it starts getting useful. You have to get those other obstacles out of the way or they'll trip you up.
Yeah. Because it until the very end, I was like, oh, I don't like any of this and I'm gonna give up. I'm not gonna try. I don't like lists. I don't like long lists and the fact that they're infinite and the fact that they're finite. Like I don't like anything that you're saying, Thomas, because that doesn't motivate me at all to work towards what can I do right now
Yeah,
until
and
you got
that's
to the end.
one thing.
But at some point, I jokingly